Zikaron Erev Yom Ha'atzmaut, starting in the next 25 minutes here in Boca, and we are up to the beginning of the next parak. The previous parak detailed and discussed the halachas of the shofaris, the shloisha asar shofaris, the 13 shofaris that were in the Beis Hamikdash. That everybody would make their donations to. And our mission, the beginning of the 7th parak, begins discussing what happens if money was found in between those shofars. Where do they go? Says the mission as follows: Maush shenimsu bein hashkalim le nedava. If coins are found between the shofar that says shkalim nedava, Hashkalim, between the ones that say Shekalim and the ones that says Nadava, meaning Shekalim are the ones that are going to buy the Korbanos, the Korban Tamid, and the ones that say Nadava, which is the ones that are for voluntary Korbanos, which is Shofar 1 and Shofar 13. Those are, if it's found somewhere between 1 and 13, we're going to get to how it could be just between 1 and 13, not between other ones. Hold on to that question. The Gemara is going to discuss. But it is Karev l'Shkalim. If it is closer to the one that says Shkalim, Yiblu l'Shkalim, then they go to Shkalim. L'Nadava, if it's closer to Nadava, Yiblu l'Nadava, they go to Nadava, meaning it goes wherever it's closest. Merza l'Merza, what happens if it is punct in the middle? Yiblu l'Nadava, then they go to Nadava. That's how it's going to go. It's going to go to Nadava. Bain Eitzim l'Levana, if it is between shofar 5 and 6, which is the one that says wood and the one that says levana. If it's close to the Eitzim, it goes to Eitzim. Levana. If it's close to the Levana, it goes to Levana. Merza. What if it's 50-50 in between? Exactly in the middle. Yiplu levana. It'll go to Levana, which is an actual korban, as opposed to wood, which is not a korban. It is brought on the mizbeach, but it's not an actual korban. And we're going to see this as a klal in a little bit. Says the Mishnah, Ben kinim legoz le'ola. If it is found somewhere between the shofar that says pez birds, that's kinim, and goes le'ola, ola birds. So korban kinim, if it's closer to kinim, yiplu kinim, then it goes to kinim. If it's Karbal goes to Ola, Yiplu goes to Ola. If it's close to goes to Ola, goes to Ola. Same rule. Merza. What if it's halfway in between? Yiplu goes to Ola. It's going to go to Gozle Ola, because Gozle Ola is the more machmir case. Meaning, whenever we have a situation where we're not sure where the money goes, it goes to the one that is less inclusive, that's more machmir. Bain Chulin Ma'aser Sheni. What if it's between Chulin and Ma'aser Sheni? Karbal Chulin. If it's closer to Chulin, then Yiblu Chulin goes to Chulin Ma'aser Sheni. If it's closer to the Ma'aser Sheni, Yiblu Ma'aser Sheni, then it goes to Ma'aser Sheni. Merza, and if it's half and half, Yiblu Ma'aser Sheni, because that is more machmer. That's there's less you can do with Ma'aser Sheni than what you can do with Chulin. Says the Mishnah, rounding up this whole thing. Zaklal, this is the rule. Holchin achar akarev lahakel. You go after the one that is closer, and whichever one is closer to you, you have the right to be lenient if it is the more lenient of the two. Merza, but if it is half and half, meaning there's no clear winner, it's totally equidistant, and you measure it 100%, it's exactly the same amount of centimeters, inches, whatever it might be, then it goes to the one that is more machmir, the one that is less inclusive, so that you don't end up downgrading that money that was brought. Says the Gemara as follows. The Mishnah shouldn't have discussed this anything other than between Shekalim and Kinim, meaning between Shekalim and Kinim. The way that the Mishnah began, Mas Shinimtzu bein Shekalim Nadava, between Shekalim and Nadava, which we're going to challenge in a little bit, but between Shekalim and Kinim, so that distance Shekalim is old Shekalim, and Kinim is pairs of birds that's chests shofar 2 and 3, and we would have learned all of the other ones from there. Meaning we don't need all of the other things because we're just repeating the din. Just give me the rule and give me the din of one of them. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Avim b'Shem Rabbi Pinchas, Kamin buchli ar hayu osim. The way that it works was it was arranged as a buchliar, which is some kind of circular shape, meaning it wasn't a line of shofaros, it was a big circle of shofaros with different shofaros laid out in different configurations. And therefore, mechza lemechza yiplu lenadava. And because of that, because of this, is what Rabbi Avin says and Rabbi Pinchas, since they were made in a circle, you need to teach the additional halachas, because it is possible that that you'll have something that is between more than two things. So that's why you need all of the different variations here. The Mishnah had told us that that if it is half and half, then it goes to a nedava. And then skipping the parentheses here, why would it be that they should go to nedava? That's going to be the question. Is the Ba'al Meimer, there are those that want to say that the reason that if it's between Shekalim and nedava, it goes to nedava, is Shema Yiplu l'Shiyari Halishka. Maybe it's going to end up as Shiyari Halishka, leftovers of the Shekalim, and a leftover of the Shekalim ends up not being brought as a korban, and if it is not brought as a korban, it ends up going to Berek HaBayis or to the municipality of Yerushalayim, in which case it would be a downgrade from the shofar of Nedavos, because all the money in the Nedava shofar will end up as a korban on the Mizbech. But Shekalim, while they are there to buy the korban HaTamid, they might end up not being used for korban HaTamid and for the Musafim, and therefore that money would be downgraded. That it's more machmir to say that it's going to go to the korban HaSadava. Is the Ba'al Meimar, those that want to say mechza kemi shemeis, that the mechza din is similar to the din of somebody that died after being mafresh his shekel, and the halacha is that if somebody separates a shekel and then he didn't give it yet, but he said I'm going to use it, and then he dies, so in that case it ends up as a nedava. While I was still in Bavel, before I came to Eretz Yisrael, Shabbos called Rabbi Yehuda Shal Shmuel. I heard Rabbi Yehuda asking Shmuel. I heard the voice of him, meaning I didn't see him ask, but I was in the Beis Medrash and I heard him say this. Here for Shekalim that if somebody separated out his shekel and he died, Amarle, so he said to him, Yiblu Nadava. You should end up. It should go to a Nadava. And that's the din. Maybe that's why coin that you know either went to Shekalim or Nadava, you don't know, it's going to end up as a Nadava because it's the same as the coin of somebody that died. Asir Saifa Shalai, and what about an Asir Saifa, the leftovers of the Eifa Shalai that belongs to him? Asir Saifa that belongs to him. That is the Asir Saifa that the Kohen Gadol brings every day. What about the leftovers of that? If you separate some of that and then he has leftover. So Rabbi Yochanan says, we saw this Gemara before, that gets sent off the Yam HaMelech. Rabbi Lezer was of the opinion that it should end up as a Nadava. And we now have the question, how would you ever have a Chatas, which is the Asher Saifa, that ends up being brought as an Olah? You never have a Chatas period. And then the Gemara asks a separate question. Back to the Mishnah Kasha, we have a question. How do you ever have a case of a chatas that is brought as an olah? Because the Mishnah told us that if you have a coin that is found between the kinim and the gosle olah, it's going to end up going to gosle olah, because that's more machmir. That's a more machmir korban than a chatas. A chatas, the kohanim eat a little bit from, and the olah is a high level of kedusha. Nobody eats from it except for the mizbech. This is a question because you effectively have a chatas that is now being brought to an olah, meaning chatas money that's been brought to an olah, because the kinim are for chatas and the goes to olah for an olah. So Chizkiah b'shem Rabbi Shimon Lakish says, Chizkiah the name of Rabbi Shimon Lakish tonight based in who ala musaras sheikru olah. There was a condition that was said. always, whenever anybody would bring something to be brought as a chatas, that any leftovers of it was brought as an olah, meaning that was already stipulated mirash from the beginning of any contribution. It was, by the way, you're bringing this chatas or you're donating it for a chatas. If it's not brought as a chatas, it's going to be brought as an olah, because that way you can know that you can always upgrade it and it's going to work. Says the Gemara, hold on a second. Ha'isha hazos, but this woman that donated money, she said, I am chayiv to bring a chatas, and I'm bringing my money for the kohen to bring a chatas on my behalf, and she puts it into the chatas shofar. So how's she going to get kapara? Meaning, she needs a chatas to be brought in order to get kapara. How's it going to work? It's only going to be brought as an olah, not going to be brought as a chatas. Rabbi Yitzchak says, Rabbi Yitzchak, Tanai Beistin. This is another Tanai Beistin, which is ha masbek es hakinim. Somebody that is masbek es hakinim that brings money to put in the kinim shofar, that puts money in there. Masbek es ha sulos also is putting money in for the replacements of things that became possible. Meaning, you always had to have a backup charge. What happens if the money that you put into this shofar is not? It ends up being that the korban was bought on your behalf, and they shechted it, and then something happened to it. Now it's possible. So you're never going to know that. So there was always built in. There had to be a backup charge, that you always had an extra korban that was going to be brought, and that was going to be in case somebody lost or something became possible. When you brought money for a chatas, you brought money as well for a backup chatas that wasn't necessarily for you, but it could have been for you. Says the Gemara, the Gemara now asks a question. We've listed the vast majority of split ups of how, at least the majority, maybe not vast, the majority of how the split up works between things being found between different shofars. But what happens if you found money between what happens if you found the parentheses here? You found things. What happens if you found things other than the ones that we've said between the Gosei Ola and the Lavan and the Lavona and the Zahav for Kaparis? What happens if you found them between other things, which the Mishnah hasn't yet spelled out? Says the Gemara, nah, Ve'tanisa b'Seifa, we said at the end, Zeh klal. There is a rule there, and holchen achar akarv mechza lemechza lahachmer. Our rule covers all of the other details that we didn't specifically spell out in the Mishnah. That rule covers it. That is halacha aleph. Says the Gemara. It says the Mishnah halacha beis. Halacha beis maos shenimtzu lifnei sech behema laolam meiser. Any coins that are found in front of the people that sell animals in Yerushalayim are assumed to be meiser sheni money. It's always assumed to be Maseches sheni money because that's what people are buying from these people. Meaning, you can only use that as, meaning the money that you brought to Yerushalayim. We assume if money was found there, that money can only be used for supplies in Yerushalayim. Uvahar habayis chulin. Any money that's found on Temple Mount itself, meaning har habayis, by the Beis Hamikdash, that is assumed to be chulin. Why is this assumed to be chulin? So, we, if I'm not mistaken, we saw this Gemara in Psachim as well, that any money that was found in Yerushalayim is assumed to be any money that's found on Har Bayis is assumed to be chulin, because we don't assume that it was not yet used for Maseches sheni. Says the Mishnah of Yerushalayim, if it was found anywhere else in Yerushalayim, meaning not in front of animal merchants and not on Har Bayis, during the rest of the year, chulin. We assume that they're chulin. V'shas a regel hakol meiser, and on any time around the Yom Tov, we assume that it's all meiser because that's when people will bring the Maseches sheni to Yerushalayim. Basur shinim so ba'azara, meat that is found in the azara. You have meat that you found something that's found in the azara. Evarim olas. If it was limbs, that's assumed to be olas. A foot, a leg, it's assumed to be an ola. Chatichos, but slices are assumed to be chatas because that's what the kohanim are going to eat. So that's why it was cut up. With Yerushalayim, and if any meat found in Yerushalayim, zivchei shlamim, is assumed to be a shlamim, because that's what people would eat in Yerushalayim. But in either case, meaning whether it is found in the Beis Hamikdash or Har Habayis or Yerushalayim, we say it should be left to change its form, meaning to begin to rot, and then it's taken out to burn, meaning once it's no longer edible. Nimtza, what comes out is bigvulin evarim nevelos vechatichas mutaris, comes out anywhere outside of Yerushalayim. Evarim nevelos, we assume that limbs of animals are nevelos, are not kosher, meaning animals that died from causes other than shechita. Vechatichas mutaris, and slices of meat are assumed to be mutar, because why would somebody slice a nevela? So it's assumed to be kosher meat. Uvishas haregel, turning over to Yud Tes Amud, Vishas haregel, and on the Yom Tovim, sheha basam ruba, where there is a lot of meat, afivar mutaris, we assume that even limbs are going to be mutar, because there is a lot of meat going around, and limbs that are found are assumed to be kosher. They're assumed to be outside of Yerushalayim, and they're assumed not to yet be, not to be shlamim, because otherwise they would have to be inside of Yerushalayim. And Be'ezra Mizbarach, we will continue tomorrow, Yom Ha'atzmaut, with Yud Tes Amud Beis.